Retro Warriors episode 491. Woo! As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by viable human Chris Saturn.
These numbers just keep getting alarmingly large.
I feel like I heard you like stumbling over your microphone.
No. I felt like I just heard that too. Maybe it was Guy in the background.
Oh yeah, maybe. Our producer's in the background falling down on his recording equipment. Anyway, welcome to the show, 491. We're getting there. We're almost there. Episode 500. It's going to be a normal episode, normal sized, I think.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it. He said, "Oh crap! I thought my mic was muted." Nope, we all heard it. Hopefully, it stays in the final edit. Otherwise, we'll sound like psychos. Housekeeping. It is officially December.
Yeah. For those of you who listening to this as it normally posts, it has been for a couple of weeks.
It's probably we're probably halfway through December, you know. But I do like to make a habit of mentioning in the December time as just kind of a holiday PSA for those of you that like myself and like other people on staff suffer from holiday related depression episodes. That you know, this is the time of year when things like that and episodes related to that kind of spike, you know, a little bit in the public, and so I think we've kind of started making a habit of bringing attention to it. That it's a common thing, it's a normal thing, it's a thing a lot of people are afflicted with, and nothing wrong with it. I deal with it myself. I've been trying to get better about it, but man, I just fucking hate the fucking holidays. I just goddamn hate them. I did think this year it would be nice to let people know about some resources that are available for anyone that is struggling in these holiday times, because I think a lot of people don't know these things, and I think that it's good things for people to just kind of have rattling around in the back of your head. Yeah. And the first is that if you need someone to talk to, then there is, both in the US and the UK, a crisis text hotline that you can text message with.
Yes.
It's run by volunteers. It's confidential. You can even WhatsApp them if you want to like ensure confidentiality. In the US, you text home to 741-741, and volunteers there will talk with you about whatever your crisis you're dealing with. For as long as you text them, they'll text you back if you need someone to speak with. This is what's called a warm line.
Yep.
Warm lines are for, you know, you're not like in imminent danger of self-harm, but you're dealing with some crises. You're in a bad place.
You need some help, but it's not like end of the world help.
There are many other warm lines available. If you're in the U.S., you can go to warmline.org. There are many warm lines for people in specific groups that they may be dealing with specific problems specific to being a member of that group. You can search by state there. There are many warm lines available. You know, you don't have to be standing on a ledge to need someone to talk to.
And it's probably better to talk to someone before you get to that.
Yeah, I mean, please talk to someone. You know, and unfortunately, the nature of the situation is that the only way we have to know that people need help is to get them to ask for help. And I know that when you're in that spot, that's the hardest thing to do.
Right.
You know, you come up with excuses why you don't deserve it, why you're detracting from other people for asking for help. You know, you come up with all these excuses for why you don't need help and you don't need someone to talk to. But the world needs you. It is better with you in it. I promise you. You don't have to believe it because I do. In the U.S., we also have a hotline, which is 988.
Yep.
This is the Suicide Prevention and Crisis Hotline. 988 is an emergency number. It will have consequences. It could eventually result in you, having to have a stay in a hospital, having to talk to, law enforcement. Right. But this is like if you are in a bad place and self-harm is imminent and you need protection from yourself, it is a last stop. It will. It's again, it is an emergency line. Treat it as an emergency line,
and it is also available via text or chat. You can chat with them online. You don't have to call anybody. You don't even have to have a phone. You can just go to a website and chat with them online. So,
but 998 can, depending on the situation, have. And unfortunately, in the U.S., the only thing we have to deal with. This is law enforcement. You may have non-emergency law enforcement dispatched to your house to talk to you to see if you need to be under observation. Or paramedics. Yes, sometimes they do the smart thing and send paramedics.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to talk about those resources. I think a lot of people don't realize that if it's just like, hey man, I'm not about to do something terrible, but I need someone to talk with, then there are warm lines. There are people to talk with. These people volunteer their time because they want to be here. They want to do this. They want to speak with you. And so just don't, if you've got that holiday depression setting in, if you need someone, obviously, like, we're here, our community is here, come chat with us. We can talk to you about video games or whatever. But like, if you're like, man, I'm in crisis, then just know that there's resources out there. There's people out there. There's things you can do, and you deserve it, even if you feel like you don't think you do. So I just wanted to kind of give that holiday PSA. I feel like we kind of touch on it every December for just a little bit. And I very so desperately want to normalize things like not enjoying the holidays. Because here's the thing, as a holiday depression sufferer, it's not even that I get upset about the holidays because there's reasons I don't like them. It's that you get treated like a freak for it. Everyone's like, what do you mean you don't like the busiest, coldest, most expensive, difficult to do anything time of the year? And I'm like, why fucking would I? What are you talking about? Anyway, I know that was a long PSA. I'm sorry for anyone that's like, okay, get on with the show, but it's is what it is.
All right.
Let's talk about video games now, Yay! Saturn. Yay! I've been playing video games.
It could be worse. The whole pre-show was disgusting. So
yeah, it was grotesque pre-show, and then straight into holiday
PSA.
Depression PSA. Look, man, this is it's a vibe, all right? Okay.
It's that one Whitest Kids sketch where they're like, emotional roller coaster.
I've been playing the video games. Thanksgiving is over. I'm fully into trying to ignore everything until December is over mode. Or at least until Christmas Day I like, because it's just me and my wife and my kid. My kid gets to open presents and I get to be with them. And like I like that. That's the good part for me. Yeah. But it's only half a day, because then the last half of the day we have to go somewhere else. It's a whole ordeal. I've been playing the Balatro. I've been trying to do all the red chip challenges. I don't know how you're so fucking good at this game. This game and Slay the Spire, it angers me. It angers me. You're like, yeah, I beat it on every difficulty, and I'm over here cannot fucking beat a single run on any red chip.
It's tough.
Can't fucking do it.
Yeah. What were the rules on red?
I don't remember. Okay. Shit. I think it's like one less discard and like higher blind. I really don't remember. I have no idea.
Cheesed my way through. So the only deck that I've done all the difficulties on is the checkered deck.
Okay. All right.
And I've done white difficulty on every deck. And then I'm slowly chipping away at doing one higher difficulty on each deck, just to try to get them all up to the hard one. But the only deck that I can easily do not easily, but have accomplished every difficulty is the checkered deck.
All right. Well, that makes me feel a little less useless.
Yeah.
Still pecking my way through the Final Fantasies. I'm in the middle of Final Fantasy 3 right now. So not even really in the middle. I got a little ways into it, and I had fired through 1 and 2, and then halfway through 3, and then I kind of floated away.
A little burnt.
A little burnout. I'm right at the point where am I? The ice horns and the dwarves.
Yeah.
So still kind of like the first leg of the game.
Yeah.
Still on the floating
halfway
island.
point, I think.
Is it really?
Feels like it.
I don't know. It might be. I mean, these pixel remasters are so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I did Final Fantasy 2 in 8 hours. I think
that's about right.
Was my time on the whole ass game.
Right.
Also, I don't know if I talked about it last time, but Halls of Torment hit its 1.0 release, and I've been playing that. It is a what Steam has been calling, and you mentioned this before, because right now they have a sale, the Bullet Heaven sale.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the official name for Vampire Survivors likes.
Yeah.
Which I enjoy. I do remember the first time I described Vampire Survivors on the show, I said something like, it's like a reverse shmup.
Yeah.
And so I feel some vindication that that's the, a variation of that has become the official name. but it is a Vampire Survivors like in the visual style of Diablo 2. And it's real good. The 1.0 added a lot. Like if you enjoy Vampire Survivors, but you don't enjoy having to break the game to progress, because Vampire Survivors is very much a game about like breaking it in every which way. Mm-hmm. The game wants you to do that. It encourages you to do that. It is not balanced because it doesn't have to be, because you're going to fucking break it anyway. Even if they balanced it, you would just break it, so it doesn't matter. Halls of Torment is very much like, no, we want this kind of tightly designed. We want the progression to be kind of linear. We want your builds to be kind of, linearly progressing in power. And it's a game that wants you to engage honestly with its systems.
Yeah.
And work on these builds that do, build in a natural way to end game strength. So if you're like, hey, I like Vampire Survivors, but I'm not really into the whole figure out how you can break it, nothing's balanced kind of thing, then, maybe it's your vibe. Also, I think it's like all of them, like $6. Like, nice. There's no point in not basically buying all of these things, because even if you play them for an hour, it's kind of worth it.
It's weird that so many of these Bullet Heaven style games are so cheap.
It is. I love that that's kind of a genre staple. Like none of them are $30-$40. They're all just kind of cheap and fun and just like, I don't know. It feels very much to me like and this is something I've always maintained about roguelikes. It feels like kind of an arcade experience where they're like, hey, it's a few bucks, enjoy it for a dozen hours, and then that's kind of it. Like that's what we're trying to deliver to you. It's not trying to deliver this $60 experience with gold editions and everything else. It just is like, hey, show up, unlock some characters, run through some levels, have a good time. That's all we're here for, We're here for a good time, not a long time. But yeah, they had come out with their 1.0, and I've been playing on that, and man, it's real good. It's kind of like top 3 Survivors likes for me are probably the Deep Rock Galactic one, which I forget the name of, Vampire Survivors, obviously, and then Halls of Torment. Those are kind of the 3. I've tried some of the other ones. I played a good bit of like Brotato, which is cute, but just kind of didn't have staying power for me.
It does have a silly name, though, and I appreciate that.
It does, and you play as a potato, a little Rambo-looking potato with a little red headband, so it's cute. It's fun.
I think I got that in something.
It's one of those ones that you see on sale for like $1 all the time, and I think it's always ranked high in like the overwhelmingly positive category. And so it pops up a lot. It is fun, like for a couple bucks, like totally get it.
Right.
But it just doesn't quite hit the top 3 for me. I think I kind of am sticking with Halls of Torment, Deep Rock Galactic, which I still need to go back to. I don't know if they're in 1.0 yet, and Vampire Survivors, which is still just the best deal in video games.
Nice.
To date. But yeah, that's what I've been. What have you been up to, Saturn? What have you been doing?
So I finally finished Silent Hill 2 remake, which is so good. Just so good.
Yes.
I got all of the achievements and all the endings. And
last we're going to hear about this game, right?
Definitely, yeah. Definitely not going to talk about that at all in this episode. So moving on, I did pick up and play a game called Mouthwashing.
Mouthwashing. Okay.
Yeah, so it kept popping up on lists of games you should play after you finish the Silent Hill 2 remake. And
all right. Okay.
And I was like, oh, that's weird.
So is it about dental hygiene?
No, it has nothing to do with dental hygiene. Well, you do encounter a lot of mouthwash, but it's barely related to the plot. People only use it to get drunk in the game.
Oh, right. All right. Yeah. Biodome style.
Yeah.
Get trashed on Listerine and jump off your roof.
Exactly. So it's classified as a horror game. I feel like it's more of a suspense game. But it is dark, and I went into it knowing it was probably going to be dark because of how it kept getting recommended to me.
Uh-huh.
And then the subject matters it actually was dark on were just pitch black dark. I did not expect that from a game with like goofy PS1 style graphics. But it definitely it's pretty rough. If you were considering it kind of plays, there's very little gameplay. It's more just like a narrative adventure.
Right.
But if you were even remotely considering considering it, take a look at the trigger warnings on the Steam page first, because man,
because they ain't fucking around.
No, it gets real dark.
May feature cavity creeps. Prepare yourself.
It is rough. It is a good deconstruction of villainy, of psychopathy. So there's that. But on the other end of the spectrum, I was playing Isles of Sea and Sky, which is a super bright, cheerful, friendly game.
Oh, there you go.
It looks like Link's Awakening. Like it is very much that art style of the classic Game Boy Color version of Link's Awakening. But it is a Sokoban style puzzle game.
Yeah.
And my only complaint about it is a lot of the puzzles, when you encounter them, you just can't do anything about them because you're expected to come back with later power-ups.
All right.
It has the kind of Metroid-style power progression.
Gated progression, yeah.
Yeah, where you eventually find a power-up and then you can come back and then you can easily solve a puzzle. But I am at the point in the game where I've gotten most of the power-ups and I have no idea how to get any more. Like, I am just staring at all these puzzles and I'm like, can I do these now?
That's how I feel in every Metroidvania, every time. So just internalize that feeling. That's me all the time.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm past the halfway point or at the halfway point, and I'm just like staring at every puzzle I can get to right now. I'm like, I don't think I can do this. Either I'm too stupid for this or I don't have an ability yet. And like on one hand,
I ask myself all the time, I'm like, I might be too stupid for this. Like all of the time I have that thought.
On the one hand, I'm like, I really want to finish this game, so I want to keep going.
Sure.
And on the other hand, I'm like, I don't know if I'm smart enough to keep going. Do I tell myself that I've simply enjoyed the journey so far and stop? Or do I just keep bashing my head against the keyboard and hope that I find a solution?
Yeah, the first one there is the Justin answer. I enjoyed it. Goodbye.
Yeah, I think I've put in like 10-ish hours, give or take. I'd have to double check my Steam thing. And I have enjoyed what I've played, but I am at the point where every puzzle that I can find, I'm just staring at it blankly, hoping that my mind will find the answer on its own without me having to do any work. And it hasn't happened, so
I see.
That's where I'm at.
All right.
But it's still a good game. I like it.
I saw a game on Steam. I almost bought it for you, but I was like, I can't tell if he'd love this or fucking hate it. I think you'd hate it. But I clicked on it because a lot of these indie games have these Dragon Quest homage covers, like their cover art. Right. And it's called like Yolk Hero or something, some related to eggs. Oh. And in it, you raise a hero, like a Dragon Quest style hero, like it's all spoofed on Dragon Quest.
Yeah.
And you raise them so they can go out in the world and like fight the big evil or whatever.
Yeah.
But you just raise them, like that's it. It's just like a complex virtual pet of you raising a Dragon Quest hero. And I was like, I don't know if you would hate this or not. I can't tell. I think your enjoyment would depend on the amount of direct Dragon Quest references, which I couldn't ascertain how many there were. But I meant to send that to you.
How many eggs there are, because I do enjoy eggs.
Well, I don't know, because it's a human hero, so I don't know if they come out of an egg. I guess technically humans do come out of eggs, but it's more complex than like a chicken egg situation.
Or maybe they just have to make a lot of eggs.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't want to spoil the human egg situation for anyone that doesn't know. But it's probably not something that would be depicted in a video game.
Depends on the game.
Let's do the news.
Yeah.
First up, Bleem is back. Yeah. Not in POG form, but creating a retro gaming platform with games and video on demand and old toys and comic books, and it's a website, internet platform app.
No idea what the fuck they're doing.
I can't fucking tell. I looked at it for so long.
Yeah,
and they're basically just like, it's an app with a vibe, and you're like,
I think they want to do a Kickstarter for it or something.
It's the weirdest fucking.
I bought the Top Racer collection recently.
Yeah,
they can't call it Top Gear anymore on Xbox, and it has a Bleem logo when it turns on. So whatever this company is that bought the rights to Bleem, they're definitely wanting to use the logo for something, and they can't figure out what yet.
And they've done more than one thing. There's a couple other games that are like they're listed as I think publisher on them.
Yeah,
and so I don't honestly like I don't know that in 2024 Bleem has a lot of retro gaming cred to cash in on. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, I don't
even
know.
think there's a lot of nostalgia for Bleem.
I mean, fuck, man. Like,
right?
I just good luck to you, Bleem.
Yeah.
Good luck to you. It sounds like a bunch of shitty microtransactions on a garbage website with some ROMs and shit is what it sounds like it's going to be.
Well, that's revolutionary. The industry needs that.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Microsoft is discontinuing Xbox avatars in January 2025.
Oh.
So I guess they held on to Mii's longer than Nintendo did.
Well, you can still make Mii's on your Switch. So
Okay. Oh, yeah, you can because it can be your little profile picture, huh?
yeah. And you can also use them in select games. Like Mario Kart and I think Tamagotchi Life.
I totally
Smash
forgot
Brothers.
about those. Yeah, you can. They're in there, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, fuck you, Microsoft. Then Nintendo wins. They win the
started
Mii
first,
war,
and
the
they're still
Mii
going.
war. 8BitDo has released a Bluetooth controller adapter for the Sega Saturn to celebrate the console's 30th anniversary because Sega's not gonna.
Nope.
It's compatible with the M30 and most other 8BitDo controllers. M30 is a great Saturn-style pad. If nobody has one, they're usually pretty cheap and they're really good.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool that 8BitDo continues to not only be the unofficial, celebrator of retro controller designs, but also in many instances the official one.
Right?
It seems. So.
I am considering this since I've got my Saturn modded with the mode in it and everything.
Oh yeah.
And I'm curious if I can map one of the buttons on this adapter, like because the M30 has the home button on it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does have. It has a home, and then it's got a select and a start,
so
or a minus and a plus, and then I think it's got
isn't going to use
a home or a star or something. Yeah.
And I'm curious if I can map that to the hotkey to go back to the mode menu.
Oh,
that'd be
that'd be nice. Now, is because the mode, like I assume it's a button combination to go back to the menu, right?
Right. Yeah.
You should be able to macro that in the Ultimate software.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I believe you can. Yeah, so I'd be interested to see.
Right.
Paramount Pictures and Sega released the final trailer for the third Sonic movie on a Genesis cartridge and sent it to the press. I don't know if it just shows how cynical I am, but I was immediately already upset at how much these are going to sell for on eBay in a couple of years.
Yeah, because they're not being released to the public. It's only sent to the press.
How do you even fucking watch it on a Genesis?
So my guess is, and this is just a guess, is that it uses that FPGA codec, whatever people were using to play Sega CD games on a Genesis, and then they just encoded the video file to a Sega CD ISO and just plopped it on there. That's my guess.
I would love to see the reviewer that watched it on Genesis and was like, the resolution is fucking garbage.
Yeah, because I think the Sega CD supports 140p video or something like that. Or 120p.
I just assumed it was like the Sonic whatever Sonic it was that the yellow cover one that Christian Whitehead did, the Sonic
Mania,
yeah, the Sonic Mania special edition that came with a little Genesis cartridge that slid open, and then maybe they just put like a USB drive in there. Is what I assume.
Plugged into a Genesis. I don't know what all it does.
Bizarre.
But
how bizarre.
For all I know, it does nothing at all except for just to give you a link to a website.
Yeah, or a QR code.
Yeah. Do you really think the Genesis could support a QR code? Do you think it's high resolution?
Maybe. I think if they made it big enough, I think you can fit a
Genesis
QR code.
Does what 576i?
It also does what Nintendo don't. So who knows? It can happen. Intel and Tencent are collaborating on a new PC handheld with glasses-free 3D. Oh my God, no one's ever done that before.
Certainly not.
Definitely not Nintendo for 10 years. I don't know. I'm excited to see more of these PC handhelds. I think that it is the way of the future. I enjoy my PC handheld. I enjoy when people make more of them. I don't really give a shit about a glasses-free 3D one that Tencent worked on, but cool. If it pushes something forward, cool. I'm happy with it, and I'm happy for people that are excited for it. Nintendo and Tencent's teaming up with everybody, are closing the Switch eShop in China on May 15th, 2026, and several upcoming Switch games in China are being canceled.
So I wonder if Nintendo's pulling out of that market or if they're trying to shift to whatever the Switch successor is.
I read a little bit on this and I couldn't quite get a grasp on is this Nintendo doing this or is this the Chinese government stepping in and dialing them back or what the deal is. I know Tencent has a lot invested in Nintendo and some of their properties, and so I can't imagine that
But if
I don't know.
Tencent or somebody else is trying to pitch a competing product in China, maybe they don't want this.
Maybe. I don't know.
Compete with anymore.
I don't understand enough about the PRC and how they do things to really comment on it, but it definitely seems weird. Seems really weird and definitely upsetting for people that bought in. I mean, that fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Like just straight up shutting it down.
In Taiwan and Singapore and Hong Kong and those not quite the same as the rest of China areas,
right?
You can still access just the South Asian Nintendo eShop, so everything will be fine there. So you just go get a Switch from that area, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. Evercade is releasing tabletop arcade units. I have one of the Evercade handhelds.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I would be more into the whole buying physical cartridges again thing, and I'm kind of not, but I'm glad to see them doing well and thriving and doing stuff. These arcade units look really small.
Yeah.
I saw a review that it's going to be the best way to play arcade games. And I was like, I don't know, man. It looks really tiny.
Yeah, it looks pretty cramped.
Kind of unusably tiny. I wouldn't mind kind of a more medium-sized unit. These look more like a novelty item to me than something you're really seriously going to play on.
Yeah, these feel more like a toy than they do like a barcade or something.
Yeah, so I'd rather it cost twice as much, be twice the size, and it's small enough that I'm worried about my hands blocking half the screen when I'm using it. It just seems a little unusably small. But cool. I'm glad to see Evercade continuing to do their thing because I like their thing, and it's neat. Japanese forum users are angry about Dragon Quest III HD 2D PC mods. They're upset that anyone would infringe upon the artistic vision of the Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D creators. And my favorite part about this news story was that people were like, yeah, man, people in Japan are so weird. And I was like, have you not ever heard any From Software fans talk about how people shouldn't be allowed to mod Dark Souls or Sekiro or Elden Ring or whatever?
Because they're okay with mods for Dark Souls so long as it only adds naked women into it.
Right, or makes the game harder.
Yeah, it's okay.
But if you want to make it easy, you get a lecture about the artistic vision of the game.
You do see this a lot in Japanese forums where they're very, very particular about things being authentic and original and everything. But
it definitely seems like a cultural difference, especially because there are a lot more legal pitfalls for people that do that kind of thing in Japan. It's very different over there as far as this kind of thing is concerned.
What gets me about this particular story is they're very upset about the artistic originality and merit of Dragon Quest III HD 2D, which is a remake of a remake of a remake. And I don't believe any of that original team from the original game. Well, Yuji Horii is still involved, but not too many other people that programmed the original game are still involved. So we're already looking at derivative of a derivative. Just derivating from it.
Just get over it.
Yeah.
Sony has revised their sales figures for the PS2 as the Nintendo Switch nears the top-selling console mark. Sony now says the PS2 sold 160 million units versus the Switch's 146 million because even international mega corporations are petty as fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck off, Sony.
In a few years, Sony's going to revise this number again to let us know that the PS2 actually sold Infinity Plus 1 units.
Well, plus, at the end of the day, who has long-term numbers on the PS2 other than Sony? They can say whatever they want.
And their evidence of this is they had pulled out some display unit that they had given as a trophy to one of the PS2 designers that had etched on it 160 million units produced.
So they just forgot when the previous number was. All right.
They were like, well, you can see here on this trophy that we gave out that it was clearly 160
You can see here on this trophy we gave to ourselves that we win. Thanks, Sony. Vector Man and ToeJam and Earl 2 added to Nintendo Switch Online Plus. That's a one good game.
That's half a good game.
That's ToeJam and Earl 2, and also Vector Man is there, I guess.
ToeJam and Earl 2 I do not enjoy. That was my the one of that series that I did not get into.
Microsoft says they have an Xbox storefront for Android, but they can't release it because Google is mean and they won't let us and they want some money or something and we can't afford it.
And they can't just release the APK for people to sideload. That would be impossible.
I just don't fuck you, Mike. Put the fucking thing out there. What are you, bitch? Shut up.
Just let people download and install it if you really want. They can. They can do it.
And finally, Nintendo is taking action against the r/Switch Pirates subreddit
Who would have thought? Who could have seen
hateful
that
anti-consumer practices, but I can't say that I'm shocked in the least.
You know, the whole idea that you would set up an entire subreddit of just the thing that Nintendo is highly litigious over and not expect exactly this outcome.
Yeah,
is shocking.
Not shocking at all. Hopefully, because a lot of these piracy-focused subreddits, which there are many, have a lot of really good information on them.
True.
So hopefully, a lot of this is redundant and saved elsewhere.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I've used that particular subreddit myself several times when looking into preserving legal backups of games I legally own licenses to.
Actually, I did follow a guide on that forum on how to dump my own Switch cartridges. Didn't work, but I did follow that guide.
I remember I was playing Fire Emblem Three Houses, and I owned it on Switch, but I wanted to play it on my deck.
Right. Yeah, that was my thing. I wanted to play Echoes of Wisdom on my PC. And despite the fact that I dumped my own cartridge, I could not fucking get it to work forever until...
It was an ordeal.
I eventually figured it out. But
anyone that acts like playing pirated Switch games is like super easy. It's kind of not. Like I do a lot of emulation. It's one of the more complicated ones.
Yeah,
so
it still takes some hoops to jump through.
Yeah. Which brings us to our topic at hand.
Yes.
Which is Silent Hill 2. Yay! Synopsis is home of the Happy Burger. Whatever that fucking means. I don't know.
Happy Burger is a restaurant in Silent Hill.
Oh.
Here, I'll send you a picture. Here's a picture of Happy Burger.
All right, let's see here. Happy Burger.
That's clearly just a Burger King.
Saturn, this does not look happy at all.
Well, it's in Silent Hill. So
is this a scary game? I'm starting to think
there's some.
This might be a scary game.
There is some scary.
Release info. This is developed by KCET Team Silent, published by Konami
Computer Entertainment Tokyo, I believe.
Okay. Came out on PS2 in North America, Japan, and European territories in 2001. Director's / greatest hits release was about a year later. Came out on Xbox as Silent Hill 2 Restless Dreams because Xbox versions that came out later had to have special names and special features.
Yep.
Which came out across 01 and 02 in those same regions. It came to PC 02 and 03 in North America and Europe respectively, and was released on PS3 and 360 as part of the Silent Hill HD collection in 2012.
Yeah, don't play that one, by the way.
Don't play that one. Even I know not to play that one. As far as first encounters, I do want to talk for a minute here because I'm not going to talk much else in the rest of this episode. I feel really bad. Saturn did this episode and spoiler the next one. Yeah. Because it was my Thanksgiving week and my daughter's birthday is also within a week of Thanksgiving, so I was just not here.
It's fair.
And so this is his opportunity to talk about Silent Hill 2, and I'm excited to facilitate that conversation.
Yes.
But I can't emotionally handle playing Silent Hill 2. And I can't even really handle some of the story and themes that occurs. I don't do horror, and this is a spooky one. I don't know if anybody knows this.
I have intentionally avoided a lot of the spooky.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So for anyone that is excited to finally hear me play a horror game, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I have not. But I do want to talk about my first and only encounter with Silent Hill. Outside of, I did watch the first movie.
Yeah. The first movie's all right. Yeah.
I saw that in theaters and was traumatized by it. And that was it. I was like, this is fucking horrifying.
Yeah, it's a pretty good movie.
And so I was over at my friend's house. We used to go to Blazing Video down the street and rent video games, and we rented Silent Hill.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one on PS1. I had not played any horror games before this. I was unaware of Resident Evil existing. I didn't know that horror games were a thing.
That was a heck of a starting point.
I was maybe around.
Straight from Monster Party to Silent Hill.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see. What year did Silent Hill come out? It would have been
98, 99.
7? No, 98, 99. All right, so I would have been around 10 years old.
Yeah.
And we got it back to his house, and I remember we booted it up, and we were walking around, and we skipped whatever intro shit there was.
Yeah.
And we're just walking around in the fucking fog.
So your intro screens are the one that says this game includes disturbing content.
Yeah, we just fire through it.
And then your second one that says fear of blood tends to create fear for the flesh. That's your two starter screens you skipped past.
Fired through and wanted to get into the game. We're just pressing the start button. We're kids.
Yeah.
And we're walking around, and he's like, "It's just I can't fucking see anything. Like you can literally can't see anything." And I was like,
see, like 5 feet in front of Harry's face.
So he hands me the controller, and I'm like, "I don't fucking know, dude." And he's like, "What do you do? Like, where's your gun? How do you run?" Like, and I'm like, "I don't know. I don't see a gun. Is there an inventory? I don't know."
Yeah, there's an inventory screen. Yeah.
And I walk, I don't know, 10 feet, and a fucking like skinless pterodactyl dive bombs me.
Now, you have to get a little ways in before you get to the pterodactyls.
Maybe I don't know. That's what I remember.
Yeah,
it's possible that he had played it a little bit, and then I showed it. Because granted, I'm 10 years old. This is 26 years ago. Okay. Yeah. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
And a skinless pterodactyl dive bombs me.
Yeah, yeah.
And I scream, throw the controller on the ground, jump up, turn the PlayStation off, and never again Silent Hill. That was my experience with it.
Until PT.
And then until PT, which is a different story.
Yeah.
And so Silent Hill 2 came out, and I was a little bit older, and it had been out for a couple years, and I remember hearing it come out, and the cover alone scared me. And then when I was around 15, 16, I got a job at a game store, and one of the people there was a huge horror fan. Mm-hmm. And she was like, Silent Hill 2 is the best game ever made. It's incredible. And I was like, oh, should I play it? And she was like, it's also the most scary, traumatizing game I've ever played in my life. Yeah, and I was like, well, you just said it was good. And she's like, yeah, that's why it's good. And I was like, no, you just described why it's not good. And that was when I realized that other people handle horror differently than I do.
It's true, yeah.
So I really wanted to experience some amount of Silent Hill 2 for you, to be here for you.
Have you seen the dog ending?
I have seen the dog ending. That was funny. I've seen like little goofy clips here and there,
that is one of the things, jumping ahead a lot, is one of the things I like about Silent Hill is it does have a sense of humor about it. And there is some dumb, goofy shit in there every now and then. It breaks the tension of the horror. And horror needs that. You can't just have 100% tension all the time, or you'll lose your goddamn mind. It needs the joke every now and then.
So I never went back. I never tried it. It was too scary for me. And then Resident Evil 4 came out, and I was like, I can almost handle this. I ended up not finishing Resident Evil 4 because I got too scared. Yeah. Because it gets more scary as you play it.
It's true, yes.
And so that's one of those, I still have never finished it.
You know what? I'm not sure if I agree with that. I think eventually by the time you get to the end of Resident Evil 4, it feels less scary because you're just fucking loaded down with the biggest weapons.
No, it got more scary. It's the scene that got me was you fight that big fucking fish thing in the lake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's like a fifth of the way through the game, give or take.
Yeah, I got that far, and I was like, this thing scares me too bad. I can't keep playing. I think eventually, you know what? I think I did push past him, and I made it farther one of my playthroughs, and I made it to like a castle area.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was like, I can't fucking do this.
It does get super scary shortly after that, because that's when you start encountering regenerators, which are the difficult enemy in the game. And,
then maybe that's what I made it to.
Difficulty definitely makes it much scarier.
So to everyone that wanted to hear about how I pissed myself playing Silent Hill 2, I did not. I know myself. I know my limitations. So Saturn, take it away.
So yeah. As far as my first encounter, I had tried a demo of the first game. A friend of mine got the demo that I think he got it from Pizza Hut back when they used to give video game demos at Pizza Hut. And I tried it, and I was like, well, this is just Resident Evil, but super foggy, and I don't care about that. And so I just didn't ever play the game until a coworker of mine, when I was working at EB, this was shortly after Silent Hill 2 came out, and he was like, this is the best game I've ever played. And I was like, are you sure? Because I tried the first one. He was like, well, that one was good, but this one is the best game I've ever played.
Right.
And he generally had good taste on games. So I was like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. So when I got my Xbox in 03, I picked up Silent Hill 2 with it. And it remains one of the best games I've ever played. Just hands down. It's in my It's in my top 5 probably. Just phenomenal game.
Yeah.
I still love it to this day.
Excellent. Well, like these big 2-part episodes, the story is going to be confined to the second episode. If you are extremely spoiler sensitive, there might be some details, so I'm
avoiding story completely in this one, so I shouldn't hit any spoilers. And even in the next episode, I'm going to go through the story as it's told in the game, so there won't be any spoilers as you go. If you want to stop at any given time and play it, you can do that.
Excellent. So if that should be good for everyone.
Now, also, we mentioned at the top of the episode that there are, hotlines and everything, and these games do cover a lot of very heavy topics, including and up to self-harm. So trigger warning in advance for any of that. I don't think I'm talking about any of that in this episode, but I will in the next episode. So again, those resources are available.
Yeah. So just be aware. Yes. I feel like we've never really had a trigger warning one of our episodes. We probably should have trigger warninged our pre-show, I think. So sorry about that.
Yeah, my bad. That was my bad, actually. This is entirely my bad this time.
Saturn's in a fucking mood tonight.
There was farts and there was mucus and things happened.
Tell me about the development of Silent Hill 2. Let me through this process.
This is a game that is very, very, very well chronicled as far as its development goes. Konami actually released a 30-minute making of DVD with the game in Europe, which is why I imported the European copy of the game so that I could watch the making of DVD. Mm-hmm. And since then, there's been several interviews. And of course, Ito is a chronic Twitter addict, and he cannot stop tweeting about everything. And some of his tweets have contradicted previous interviews, and some are completely new information that is not necessarily verifiable. So I don't know how much we consider that canon.
Yeah.
But there is a ton of information out there. So there is some development information.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, just real briefly, the first game, it was the late 90s. Konami wanted to capitalize on the success of Resident Evil. So they tried to get a team together to make their own horror game that they specified wanted, quote, a Hollywood-like atmosphere to the game.
Mm-hmm.
And development was dragging on, and most of the developers within Konami who actually had any clout were taken off of the project. And so you ended up with a bunch of people on this team that were considered outsiders or rejects within Konami in their own words. Yeah. So you had all these weirdos, and also Konami's corporate people were not really paying attention much to the game. So like a lot of the corporate direction was pulled off of it. And so they were given a lot more freedom than they really should have been within a company like Konami.
Yeah.
And so they decided they wanted to do something artsier.
Because Konami was even still in this era was, but especially before this they were pretty strict.
Yeah.
They were pretty locked down. These days, I think we're pretty sure they're run by like a goat and an AI bot.
Yeah.
But back then it was much different.
Oh yeah. So they were given a lot of freedom, and they made, their artsy game that they were happy with, and it sold pretty well.
Sure.
It reviewed pretty well. And so Konami immediately was like, make a sequel, but also we're taking half of your staff. And so
do it twice as good with half as many people. Goodbye.
Yeah, right. So the people that were remaining were the artsiest of the artsy people. And they were given budget to hire more people. So they brought in a bunch of people. And also they were given a PS2 dev kit, which was one of the first ones that Konami had seen.
Mm-hmm. So
they had new tech, they had a bigger staff, and they had some creative freedom. So they took advantage of it.
Because for people that don't remember, being 2001, this was a within a year of the PS2's launch. It's pretty early, PS2 game.
Yeah, and they actually had the dev kit before the PS2 came out, so they had been working on the game since before the console released.
Yeah.
And also, Sony hadn't provided them with any actual API libraries for the hardware, except for surround sound. That was the only library that they were given.
Thanks, Sony.
So all of the code was done from scratch. The Silent Hill 2 staff filed at least 6 patents that I could find relating to various mechanics in the game, regarding PS2 hardware, things like the fog and control orientations. Also James head tracking, which is a really neat feature. Because anytime there's an item, instead of the item shining or sparking or whatever, James just stares at it as you walk past to let you know that there was a thing. Well, it feels stupid half the time because he'll just be like staring at health drink as you walk
to the side
by.
Of some shit. Yeah.
Yeah. And like there's an enemy like actively trying to hit him, and he's just like, oh, look at that over there. Also, code from the Silent Hill 2 engine would be reused for a lot of other Konami games throughout the PS2's life. including the other 2 Silent Hill games, also Shadow of Destiny and a handful of other games, all just reuse this butchered Silent Hill 2 code that just kept getting trotted out over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And you can definitely see the flaws by the time it gets later in the PS2's life.
Yeah.
The director and lead writer of the first game, who is Keiichi Toyama, had left Konami to join Sony by this point. So the guy who wrote the game was gone, and he took a bunch of the staff with him. And the new Team Silent, they decided to take a completely different direction from the first game. Because the first game was all about this cult that, was trying to summon a devil and everything, take over the town and everything.
I saw the movie,
Yeah, well, all that's gone. They were like, oh, we don't want to talk about cult. That's boring. So all that's gone. This is
Let's
more
get way more personal.
Yeah, this one's a very standalone story. They wanted to make the series more of a serial kind of thing, like Twilight Zone or Outer Limits or something, where every game could be a standalone thing.
Sure.
And so the lead story designer was the CGI artist from the first game, Takeyoshi Sato, who was also the lead CGI artist for this game. And he had famously created all of the CG games from the first game on his own, because he was the only person on the staff who knew how to work in, I don't think it was Blender, whatever the 3D rendering software of the time was.
Yeah.
I think it was like Softdesk or something.
Yeah.
And all of the senior artists at Konami were like, well, teach us how to make this. And he was like, okay, well, as long as I get credited for the work, I'll teach you guys how to make it. And they're like, no, we're the senior artists. We get credited. You just have to show us how to do all of our job. And he was like, I don't want to do that.
That sounds stupid.
And the higher ups were like, well, the only way you're getting credited is if you literally do every CG on your own. So he just lived in the office for a while and made all the CG for the game.
Yeah.
So he also did the CG art and also the story for the second game. He said his biggest influences on the story development were Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky.
So here's the thing. I have an English degree. And as part of my English degree, I did have to explore Russian literature.
Yeah. Did you have to read Crime and Punishment?
I did not have to read. We did read some Dostoevsky, but we did not have to read the entirety of Crime and Punishment. But when you tell me, you're like, oh, I'm making a game, the story is based on Dostoevsky. Oh, shit, man. Like, whoo, boy, you're going right to the bottom of the sad barrel and digging it right up, ain't you? All right, man, fuck.
We've been doing this show for almost 500 episodes, and I think this is the first time we've had to reference Dostoevsky.
Like, I didn't read a lot of Russian literature. My focus was on Greek literature, but we had a section on it.
It turns out Link's Awakening was not based on Dostoevsky.
Turns out people were real sad in Russia for a while.
Who knew?
Really?
For a while?
Yeah, for just a little
long while, man. In addition to Dostoevsky, he is also based on a lot of the works of David Lynch, notably Blue Velvet and Lost Highway, and Twin Peaks. Also, Jacob's Ladder was a big inspiration for a lot of the visual elements. And a lot of the shows, very obviously, they didn't do a good job of scratching off the names of the homework when they were copying a lot of these sources.
Yeah.
It's pretty apparent. The town exteriors were heavily based on the town of San Bruno, California, because that was close to the Konami offices and they could go there and check it out.
Sure.
The beta versions of the game even included the exact names and appearances of businesses in the town of San Bruno.
Oh, that's probably less okay.
And Konami's legal team was like, no, change
maybe don't do that.
So they just kind of fudged some things, changed some colors, changed some names. That's fine now. Several areas were intentionally designed to be long and empty to give a sense that the town is large and also that James is alone in it, and that definitely comes across. Which is not something that you see in Mario.
Right? Yeah, you want
Mario
things densely packed.
alone.
Yeah.
Sato also acted as the lead character designer and used himself as the model for facial features and cutscenes, usually in front of a mirror by filming himself, which they had footage of in the making of documentary, and it looks ridiculous. You see this guy in front of a mirror trying to act out these scenes because he's clearly not an actor. And in the documentary, when he's discussing this, he said, quote, "I had to act sexy in the office, and also, quote, I looked like a pervert," which that's That's how game design happens, I guess.
I had to act sexy in the office.
So yeah, I think that all the time when I'm in the office.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
sexy office time.
Many of the character designs and costumes were taken from pop culture. James's costume was inspired by Tim Robbins' character in Jacob's Ladder. Maria's outfit, also famously at this point, is based on an outfit worn by Christina Aguilera at the Teen Choice Awards.
Just taken from any old thing they feel like, I guess. I mean,
if you search Silent Hill Christina Aguilera, you'll see the comparisons, and it's literally a 1-for-1 copy of her outfit.
Yeah.
They did not do a good job. Anyway, the motion capture there was motion capture that was used for the cutscenes and in-engine story sequences, but not for facial movements. The motion capture was actually provided by the voice actors for the game. The voice actor for James, Guy Seehee, is not a professional voice actor.
Oh,
he
okay.
was bringing his daughter to the audition for the child character Laura. And while he was there, he was like, well, I might as well audition while I'm here, and got the lead role. His daughter did not get the part as Laura, by the way. So,
oh, God, that as a dad,
yeah,
I couldn't even imagine me
home, like, sorry about that. Anyway, I got to go right back up there.
Yeah, sorry you didn't get it, but I did.
I'm sure 10-year-old girls would understand, right?
Nope. I got a 9-year-old. They'd be like, fuck you, Dad.
Yeah. Apparently he asked his daughter's permission first before he accepted it.
Yeah.
And she totally was cool with it, I'm sure.
Oh, definitely. It's
the enemies in the game are all designed by Masahiro Ito, the Twitter addict. Ito wanted most of the monsters to be something that could be mistaken as being human, but would appear less human when they either start moving or when you get closer to them. And that is true. The movements were based on, quote, watching drunk people or toddlers try to walk. I believe that. Sato had said the team's consensus on monster look was that it look of soured flesh.
Oh.
And I think they pulled that off. Ito also said the enemy designs were inspired by the art of Francis Bacon, which if you don't like creepy stuff, don't look up the art of Francis Bacon because it's all just weird.
Oh yeah, no, it's out there. It's definitely out there.
And the music and sound design was all by Akira Yamaoka, who would also work on nearly every other game in the series. Yamaoka said he composed the music to elicit emotion and the sound effects to confuse or disgust the player, and I believe him. He recorded more than 100 steps of just him walking on different surfaces to make sure that the sound of James's footsteps didn't get repetitive, because there's plenty of sequences in the game where there's no background music.
Yeah, it's just background sound. Footstep, which, I mean, this is a kind of a horror staple, is extreme attention to Foley work and small sound effects and how that affects the viewer, whatever, game player.
And he's very good at it. So he pulled that off. He said he insisted on several scenes having no background music because he felt that was better at conveying the mood than any music would be. Fair, especially for horror.
Sure.
Also, at one point he was talking about the different sound effects he used to make instruments for some of the more cacophonous music. And he was like, "Oh, this was like somebody fell down at the office, and I recorded that." And it was like, this was somebody brushing
I'm sure
their
it was
teeth.
just like clattering or whatever, but I imagine they're like, please help me.
like, oh, that's a good one.
Nah, yeah, keep calling out, please. Yeah, this is great, great stuff.
And he was like, this was the sound of somebody brushing their teeth, and I used it as the main instrument in this song. It's just very odd. And now that I know what some of the weird, creepy music in the game is actually, yeah, I can hear it. And I'm like, oh, that is somebody brushing their teeth. But, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
So, as far as presentation goes, the game was released on several different systems. The PC version at the time was the worst. So, but all that's been fixed with the enhanced edition port. So, if I make any criticism of the PC version, assume that's all fixed.
Yeah.
So, as far as graphics, looked pretty good at the time. It looks like an early PS2 game.
Yeah,
it's an early PS2 game.
I've seen enough to know that like it does what it needed to do, but it's not gonna like blow your socks off. The original version, anyway.
No. The CG cutscenes were really impressive for the time, and you do have to put that heavy for the time asterisk there.
Yeah.
And they look okay for now, but they are a product of 25 years ago.
Yeah.
The fog effects and some water effects are a bit wonky on Xbox and PC, but manageable.
Yeah.
The mocap supposedly made them look more human. The movements are human, but
the fact that they even did any mocap, I mean, this was an era where people still were just manually rigging a lot this stuff. And you could tell, like mocap is a pretty big expense. So
yeah, and this was very early mocap, especially for the video game industry. Like films were doing mocap by this point, but games didn't do a ton. And so it's relatively primitive mocap, and the actors were not like really great actors.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of very exaggerated movements and stuff. But there's no HUD during the gameplay. You have to go into a subscreen to see health or ammunition or anything like that.
Don't like that at all.
That was pretty common for horror games at the time.
Sure, yeah.
There's also a grain filter over the entire thing to make the image look, quote, dirtier, which you can remove on subsequent playthroughs. They said that because the PS2 had higher rendering capabilities than the PS1 did, that the combination of the high-res graphics and the fog were just making things look a little too weird, so they added the grain filter to make it look like it was older and grungier, and that seemed to help make everything mesh a little better.
Yeah.
And if you turn off the grain filter, you can tell it did make things mesh together a little better.
Yeah. It's cool that they even give the option to turn it off. So,
right.
It's something.
Yeah. And on PC, you don't even have to beat the game first. There was a glitch on the PC version where all the things you're supposed to beat the game first for,
you just had them,
were just unlocked. So you can just go in there and turn off the grain filter.
Yeah.
And then, like I had mentioned earlier, James will just turn his head to items to let you know that something's there while you're walking past, which is cute and also stupid frequently.
Well, weird. And I mean, to their credit, a natural way to do that.
Yeah.
If you want to have no HUD, then how do you justify shit sparkling or arrows or however else you want to do it? Like, it's very video gamey to have that.
Yeah. And I did see a review of the remake that came out a couple of months ago now. Where people were like, and in a really innovative thing, they've made it to where the character's head turns towards items you can pick up. I'm like, that's from 25 years ago, man.
Innovative, Saturn.
Yeah.
They didn't notice it back then.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
Or in all the sequels.
Yeah.
As far as music and sound, it's just great. I love this soundtrack. It's so good. During story sequences, you have this very melodic compositions that kind of strike a balance between melancholy and tension, and then during the scary moments, it's just this sound. It's just a cacophony of toothbrushing and shit.
Toothbrushing.
But no, it's good. The mixing is very good. It used the S4 virtualized stereo surround to simulate full surround. Background and sound effects are there to unnerve you.
It worked. I was very unnerved.
Oh yeah. And they often you'll often hear sound effects that have nothing to do with anything. Like it sounds like there's some creepy thing in the distance. There's not. They're
just building tension. Yeah.
And then of course the sounds of the radio, which is an important gameplay feature. They are there to alert you that something's nearby, but specifically in Silent Hill 2, it had different radio sounds for each different enemy, so you would know what kinds of enemies were around as well, which they lost in the remake, unfortunately. And then the textures in the HD remaster are not great, but they're fine.
I think I've seen screenshots of this complaint before. It's not awesome.
Yeah, it feels fudged, but it's all right.
Yeah.
The voice acting, despite what a lot of the people on the internet would have you believe, the voice acting was not intentionally bad. It's just kind of bad.
It's accidentally bad.
Yeah, and you know what? I love the voice acting in this game because it does add to the atmosphere of like this weird, ethereal, otherworldly nonsense.
Sure. Yeah, I can see that.
But it's also amateur voice actors, and you can tell in a lot of situations, and a lot of the voice acting has nothing to do with what's actually being said. Voice direction is weird. The actress for Maria and Mary is fantastic. She is an excellent voice actress, and she carries the entire fucking game. Everybody else is fine. It's fun and it's goofy, but it's not amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's also 2001,
right?
In the realm of video game voice acting, like just having mocap and voice acting, that's pretty good for 2001.
It's the same voice director as Metal Gear Solid, so that'll tell you, what.
Yeah, so you know what to expect there.
Yeah,
which I think it worked in Metal Gear Solid too, because it's also a goofy ass game about a pale naked man cartwheeling through an industrial complex fighting a vampire.
Yeah,
so
serious stuff.
It's those very serious Kojima games that were very serious.
Oh yeah.
You remember how they were very serious, Saturn's very serious military dramas.
Right. Yeah, it was
about a bikini woman who breathes through her skin dancing in the rain while you fight a zombie man on the back of a Mecha Godzilla.
Yeah, that was a peak video game writing right there.
Let's do gameplay. Are we on gameplay?
We
made it?
Gameplay.
All right.
It's third person horror action with heavy puzzle elements. Uses tank controls, but you can turn them off if you don't want to use tank controls. Unlike Resident Evil, it's not all fixed camera angles. A lot of the time, the camera will kind of swerve behind James and follow you.
Yeah.
The exploration is mostly linear. There's a handful of open areas where you can kind of explore the town, but then you have to go to the next zone next, so you end up funneled back into the linear path.
Yeah.
You will find maps to most areas, and my favorite part of Silent Hill is that James notates on his map all the time. So if there's a blocked path, he marks a blocked path. If you need a key, he'll put a little circle there and say, need key. Then when you find the key, he crosses out his text, so you don't need that key anymore.
Which is surprisingly useful.
Yes.
Especially of this era in 2001. This is still the era of, you just get a journal that lists 500 tasks, and you're like, oh shit, did I do these? Which ones have I not done? Where is that? So dynamic map is very nice.
So good. And of course, each area is basically a puzzle with a bunch of locked doors or puzzles you have to solve in order to progress, and they all use crazy moon logic, as is common for adventure games, and even more so for horror adventure games.
Yeah.
At one point, you have to find 3 combinations or keys to open up a locked box, and then when you open it up, it's just a single strand of hair, and you have to attach it to a bent needle to form a fish hook.
So were these intentionally nonsensical to play up the nonsensical nature of the world and the game?
Yes.
Okay. It wasn't just the designers being assholes.
No, because Silent Hill is supposed to feel weird and nonsensical, so it does fit at least. It's thematic.
Yeah.
But don't expect to make any sense of the puzzles.
Yeah.
And they do have this nice high-res texture shot of each puzzle piece. Like when you pick them up, it just like zooms in on it, and it's like a Ren and Stimpy style high-res zoom in. But otherwise, it's fine. The combat is clunky. A lot of people online will tell you this is intentional. The development staff themselves have said it is not. This is just the best they could figure out.
A lot of PS2 games, a lot of early 3D, because I still consider PS2 early 3D. I know it's several years into 3D, but like
it's the second generation of
the sophomore 3D generation. A lot of PS2 stuff felt real clunky here.
Oh yeah.
Clunky combat was just kind of the thing in the late 90s and early aughts. So I don't know.
Yeah, you do have firearms. It's aiming is all automatic. You just kind of point towards the enemy, hold the weapon button, and then shoot, and you'll probably hit them.
Is it more or less clunky than Metal Gear Solid 2?
It's about the same level of clunky.
Okay, so that's a pretty reasonable level of clunkiness, I think.
You do get melee weapons, and it's mostly just you flailing in front of you or smashing overhead in front of you.
As you do, yeah.
And then, most importantly, you have to stomp enemies after they fall, or they will get back up.
So just like real life, yeah.
Yeah, just like real life. You
just
kill
like we're
someone,
taught.
you have to stomp them a couple times.
Jesus Christ.
They're just going to get back up. You've got 3 melee weapons, a plank of wood with some nails in it.
Yes.
A steel pipe.
Yeah, Clue style, like it.
Yeah, and then the spoiler weapon, which I won't mention.
Okay.
And then you get 3 firearms. You get a handgun, a shotgun, and a rifle.
That's every kind of gun.
That's all 3 guns. It's all of them.
Well, they forgot bazooka.
Oh, right.
Bazooka is in there too, but that's all of them.
That's Resident Evil uses bazookas. Silent Hill skips that.
That's all of them.
There are 2 weapons you can unlock in New Game Plus. One is a chainsaw, which makes the game so much better. And the other is a hyper spray, which is a aerosol can, which kills enemies.
Why?
I don't know. There's no story explanation of the hyper spray. I thought
there'd be some lore or something.
Nope. And
you're zombie away.
Yeah, the hyperspray's effect changes based on how well you did on your last playthrough. And if I remember right, you have to really suck bad for it to be effective.
Yeah.
But it's been a while since I've used the hyperspray because its range is like a foot.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to be a foot away from an enemy, I'm just going to use a chainsaw.
Right. Of course. That's the obvious choice.
There's 9 enemies in the game. Your lying figure, which kind of looks like it's in a straitjacket.
9 feels low.
Yeah. There's only the 9. The lying figure kind of looks like it's wearing a straitjacket made of flesh, and also inexplicably wearing high heels, also made of flesh. Again, the whole soured flesh thing was their thing.
Sure.
Then you have the creeper, which is a giant roach. It was the only carryover from the first game. You have mannequins, which are mannequin legs attached to another pair of mannequin legs.
I've seen those.
And in the remake, they're the comic relief because they constantly try to hide from you, but while you're staring at them.
They're straight from Monster Party. They put a bottom half on the legs that stick up out of the ground.
Exactly.
That's what they stole it from, obviously.
Then you have your bubblehead nurse, which is a sexy nurse, but with a messed up face and for some reason a little red square where her mouth should be. Then you have the Mandarin, which has enormous hands or enormous arms that flare out at the end and then have mouths at the end of the arms for some reason. And they hang from the bottom of the floor, and so you never really encounter them. You just kind of run past them.
Yeah.
Then you have Flesh Lips, which is a boss.
That is the grossest name.
And then the next boss, I'm not even going to mention the name of because it's a spoiler, so I'll mention that in the next episode.
Okay, sure.
Then you have Pyramid Head, who also serves kind of as a boss and just kind of as an antagonist.
And kind of just as the iconic character, like he's the Silent Hill guy. Like
and
people like me
in the second game.
People like me that don't know, that didn't play Silent Hill because we're big babies, we're like, oh yeah, the Silent Hill guy, the Pyramid Head, he's the Silent Hill guy.
Yeah, he's only in the second game. They did eventually bring him back in some later ones, but that was after the Silent Hill developers stopped working on the series.
Yeah.
Because they always felt that he was just for the second game. But then after Konami shit-canned them and outsourced development, they were like, no, you have to put Pyramid Head in all of them because people like him.
Yeah, people do like him.
And then the final boss I won't mention because that's also a spoiler.
Sure, yeah, next episode, save it.
Yeah. Enemies don't see you unless you have your flashlight on, and they can also hear your radio, I think. So if you turn off your flashlight and your radio, they can't see you, but also, hey, you can't see either, so it's,
a little uncomfortable to sit through. Yeah.
And then there's no health indicator for James. You just kind of have to look in your menu screen, and there's a little still image of the game screen that'll change colors based on how much health you have.
Okay.
So if you're hurt, you just kind of have to remember to check your inventory every now and then to see if you're hurt enough that you need to heal.
Right.
But that's a horror thing from the time.
So was there no even like, I know this is kind of later game design. This is more like 360 era that this started being a thing, but like no on-screen effects whatsoever when you're near death.
No.
Okay.
The PC version, so the controller would rumble if you were near death. And the PC version, since it didn't know if you were going to have a rumble on your PC gamepad in 2003, just put a little red health cross indicator on screen when you were low on health.
Yeah.
But that was it. No other version had that, to my knowledge, anyway.
All right, then.
As far as reception goes, generally well received. Didn't sell as well as the original.
Really?
Said to have sold about 1 million copies across all platforms, based on Konami's investor information. The Metacritic is at 89 out of 100. Now that's a bit higher than it was at release, though, because a lot of retrospective reviews have been just glowing.
This is nuts to me because this is Silent Hill 2 is very much on like greatest video games of the entire medium of video games. Many times I see it.
Yes. And it sold okay. And a lot of the early reviews were mediocre to poor.
Really?
You saw a lot of reviews that were like, not as scary as the first game, C-.
Not enough dive bombing skinless pterodactyls.
Right. You saw a lot of reviews that were just like, story didn't make any sense, B-, as a lot of people just didn't really seem to grasp what it was going for.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until years later that reviewers came around to it and they're like, oh, this is actually, pretty good art. I don't know how great it is as a video game.
Yeah.
The Xbox release received slightly weaker reviews due to some technical issues. PC release scored a little lower than that. Again, technical issues.
Yeah, we talked about it. Yeah.
But again, retroactive reviews very, very high. It's on top 100 games of all time list from IGN, Polygon, Games Radar.
I see it all over the place.
Critics like James Stephanie Sterling and Ben Yahtzee Crawshaw have listed it as one of, if not their top favorite game of all time.
I see it very much. I see it's this is definitely one of those games that I see. I'll say attempting. Mm-hmm. I see people attempting to elevate beyond video games. They're like, this is high art. Period.
Yeah.
This is. Yeah.
This is one of those ones everybody's like, oh, this is the games as art, proof. This is the one we want to show to Roger Ebert to finally get him to change his stupid fat head mind.
Yes.
But yeah, you see that now. At the time it was released, no, you do not see that.
Interesting.
As far as Legacy, there was a remake. It came out a couple months ago. There is a film adaptation in production now, as of recording. And then Konami made a few more games, then they just kind of stopped, and supposedly they're starting again. So we'll
see
how it goes. And
see if that one goat with its AI bot is able to get fucking anything out the door.
Yeah. And of course, a bunch of horror game developers in the years since, and especially indie horror game developers, have listed this as a direct influence over the years.
Oh yeah, I mean,
pretty common.
I'm not a Silent Hill person. I've never been a Silent Hill person. I'm not in that. It's not in my wheelhouse. It's not a thing that I don't want to say. I don't want to say it's not a thing I enjoy. It's not a thing I'm capable of enjoying. Is probably a better way to put it. I wish I could. I want to. It's frustrating to me.
Well, the tension and anxiety are pretty peak the entire game.
I got enough tension and anxiety on my own.
Right.
And so it's.
I am a big fan of the artificial anxiety to distract me from my personal anxiety.
No, my artificial anxiety triggers and worsens my real anxiety.
Yeah.
So I have to avoid it at all costs. I feel like the guy that can't ride the roller coaster because of a heart condition. Like that's how I perpetually am staring in the window of the Silent Hill 2 building. Like, oh, I wish I could. But I know myself better than that.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, it as far as final thoughts, it is a little shocking to hear. That it was kind of, not a flop on release. Like, it seems like it did okay.
Yeah, it's sold well enough to get greatest hits, which is better than the games after it.
But a game that is so retroactively adored and propped up as this is museum worthy art.
Yeah.
To be like, yeah, it was okay. That to be the reception at the time is crazy.
Yeah, and again, I didn't even play it when it first came out because seeing reviews, I was like, whatever.
Sure.
If it was worth it, I would have heard about it. And then I did hear about it, and I was like, oh, I have to play this. And then since then, I've been proselytizing it for decades.
Yeah, definitely. And then I know you've played. How many times have you played through the remake? Like 4 or 5?
3 times now.
3 times.
Yeah, enough to get everything. And it's good. It's real good, and I recommend it. And if you're somebody who looking at the original and you're like, that just looks a little too clunky to me, play the remake. That's it's just a phenomenal remake, and you can skip right to it.
I've very much heard that the remake is like, hey, this is the kind of quintessential version of it.
There's a couple of things that I still kind of prefer in the original, but I would say that if you want it to be a good game, play the remake.
Yeah, well,
because
thankfully,
the original game is awkward.
If you're like me and you know that you can't handle playing the game, then you can still experience the game vicariously through Saturn.
Yep.
Story-wise, at least. Next episode.
Yes.
Which I'm very interested to hear how dark this is going to get, and possibly a little concerned.
Yeah, I'm skipping most of the scary.
A non-zero amount concerned, but
yes.
We'll see.
That's fair.
We'll see. But what I'm not concerned about, Saturn,
be concerned about
is our Patreon at patreon.com/Retro Warriors, because it's there, and so you don't need. You don't got to concern yourself. Maybe concern yourself with it a little bit. If you want to go there, and give us money.
Concern yourself long enough to subscribe.
To set up an automatic way for us to take your money every month. If you could please go set that up for us, we would appreciate doing so and having that money. We don't love money as a concept, but we love it as an object, and we use it. I use it all the time.
Yeah.
Very frequently do I use money in Steam sales and to buy bread and milk. And I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. Go to our Patreon. We want to thank the following patrons for their kind donations, starting with Dr. Jason Tharp.
And Space Bruce.
Grover and Simba.
David DeAndrea.
Daniel Pollock.
Brett Stifler.
Rayude.
Domingo Carlo Martinez.
Abe Lincoln. Well, look at that.
Isn't it? That was so nice of him. And Alexander VG.
All gave us money. They all went to the thing and they clicked on the thing, and you can too. It's not a lot of clicks or taps. I don't know how you interface with the internet anymore. I'm old. I click on things. I click on things.
Hey Siri, subscribe to the thing.
Yeah, I don't know if ChatGPT will do it for you or whatever. I don't know how that works. Apparently, Gen Z doesn't even use search engines. I don't even know how they interact with the internet. They must have some kind of VR lawnmower man type rig that lets them dive directly into the net.
The neural implant now, it just knows what they're searching for in advance.
I don't think we're supposed to call it the net either. I don't think we're allowed to. I think we're supposed to, I don't know.
What else would we call it?
The web, the World Wide Web.
Well, web is on the net.
Oh no, I don't know then. I have no idea. Anyway, we'll be back next week with the story, the nice, uplifting Christmas times story.
That holiday classic.
I wonder how close to Christmas the next episode will release. I haven't looked at it
next to it,
but it's gonna be.
I think it's the week of.
This episode, we let you know about the crisis prevention hotlines, and next episode, right up against Christmas, we're gonna go over the story of Silent Hill 2. Merry fucking Christmas! Hope you fucking enjoy it.
This episode's gonna release. The story's gonna release on December 23rd. So Merry Christmas, kids.
Take that, Christmas. Fuck you. Anyway, thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week. And as always, let us cling together.